So I wanted to get on here and say some things about the new Fantastic Four trailer. If you've watched any of my previous videos, you know that I have a high level of skepticism when it comes to people making movies out of properties that I really like, especially one as sensitive as Fantastic Four that has a huge fan following and has been mistreated repeatedly over the years in film. Anything that I see as cause for concern, I kind of latch on to, and until proven otherwise, I tend to just stay in that headspace of, okay, this is probably going to disappoint me. Just about every announcement in pre-production for the new Fantastic Four movie, First Steps, just about everything caused me concern. I thought the casting made no sense. Like none of it. After hearing Matt Shakman talk about the project and about the Fantastic Four in general, I decided I don't think he's the right director. After finding out who wrote and who polished the script and how many writers there were, I thought this is not good. And watching Disney push so hard and heavy on the promotional material for this movie, it seemed like they were willing to bet the house on a product that had yet to be demonstrated. So I thought, if this is the kind of high-risk maneuvering involved in getting this project off the ground, I don't trust the process. I don't trust what Disney is going to do with it. And that's the headspace I've been in since last year. Now, in recent years, when there is a project that looks like it's going to abuse characters or a property that I really like and have an emotional investment in, the way I cope with or process that is to write my own story with those characters or that property. And the first time I did this was when it became obvious that Matt Reeves was going to completely bastardize my favorite Batman villain, the Riddler. So I wrote a short story surrounding the Riddler in screen format, and ever since the pre-production developments on this new Fantastic Four movie, I realized that I was going to need to do that same thing again. I was going to need to write my own version of the story so that I could look at something that I liked in case the upcoming one disappointed me, which I'm worried that it will. So this is what I wrote up for a Fantastic Four short story. The idea during writing was to craft it as a short film that I could, with my resources, reasonably create if it was ever something that I felt up to doing. So if you bother reading it, you'll notice that in a lot of ways it leans into the things that you can do on a limited budget, but it is nonetheless viable. But while that's going, I'll talk about what I thought about the trailer that just dropped. I had several thoughts. First and foremost, the trailer did nothing to reverse my opinion about the casting. Pedro was weird and stiff as a board, and I know we only got a couple lines out of him, but if it's at all emblematic of his portrayal of this character, then no good. Secondly, The Thing. There's been a lot of talk about The Thing's appearance in this trailer. A lot of people going, oh, that CGI looks bad, and then a lot of other people jumping in and going, this is amazing CGI. You don't know what good CGI looks like. It's just that you've never seen a man that looks like a pile of rocks before. And both of these groups are making halfway true points. In reality, the image looks good. The textures look good. The design is great. The problem is with the animations, the facial animations and everything. It doesn't look like a living thing moving. So the model looks good, but how that model is animated does not look good. So it is equally true to say that the CGI looks really good and that the CGI looks really bad. It just depends on what aspect of it you want to talk about. And the discussion around The Thing has caused some people to look back at the Tim Story version with Michael Chiklis in like a rubber suit. And like, I think Eric Voss said this, but he was like, yeah, I mean, really, you don't want practical when you're doing something like The Thing. Like, look back at the 2005 version. They did practical and it's not great. And I'm like, I have to disagree with that. It's great. The way The Thing looks in that movie, yeah, it's not a perfect adaptation of the character design, but it looks good. It looks like a living humanoid pile of rocks. It looked good then and it looks good now. They could have figured out a way to develop their version of The Thing in this movie using practical effects, and I think they could have made it look great. The 1994 version used a practical suit with animatronic facial articulations, and it looked pretty good for the time. Between facial animatronics and prosthetics and puppetry and whatnot, if they wanted to, in 2025, do a version in practical, they could probably make a pretty killer version. So no, I don't think there's an argument to be had that, oh, well, they just couldn't have done it right in practical. Okay, so the big one's out of the way. Vanessa Kirby as Sue Storm. I don't know. She seems okay in the role. Doesn't seem great. I guess we'll see what nuances her performance takes on in the full-length movie, but in this trailer, there was just... she didn't seem like Sue to me. She just seemed more generic than that. Sue's powers looked really great. I like that they decided to play with like prismatic lighting since she bends light as like part of her power set. Now, Joseph Quinn as Johnny seemed fine. Johnny Storm is the most one-dimensional character of the group, so he is the broadest target to hit. He's the easiest to pull off. Almost anyone could do it. Joseph Quinn's gonna do fine. It looked fine in the trailer. The fire effects looked really good. I like seeing Johnny zip through the city. That looked really cool. I was disappointed that we did not see any of Reed's powers in action in this trailer, and how that looks is going to be a big deal to me, so I'm really looking forward to seeing it. It should also be said, Galactus looked great, as expected. I think that's the one element of this movie that we've all known that we could count on since the first rumblings we heard about how he was going to be developed. I didn't like that the Thing's voice was just Eben's voice. Like, no attempt to sound like someone from New York's Lower East Side. No attempt to sound more gruff or beastly. Nothing about it gels with every other rendition of the Thing we've ever seen in cartoon, in film, or, you know, how we tend to interpret his voice when reading the comics. He's just Eben. Didn't love that. All in all, the trailer did nothing to soften my opinion that the writers, the director, the actors, really the whole creative team behind this movie do not understand the characters of the Fantastic Four. That opinion has not been overturned. There were things about the trailer that were nice, that were cool, but bringing the Fantastic Four back home to Marvel and developing the third film iteration of this property in 20 years, and after 2 critical failures, you can't get by on just fine or just kind of cool. Like, this movie needs to be great, and I get no sense that it's actually going to be great. We'll see. I could go see the movie and be completely blown away by what they've developed. There are just no signs that that's going to be the case as of right now. And it's because everything was missteps from the beginning. Again, casting, Matt Shakman, the writers, just none of it made any sense to pair it with a Fantastic Four movie. But here we are, and hopefully they can make the best version that they could possibly make with those puzzle pieces. But I guess we'll see.